right, well, thank you two guys for coming, man. This is it's big for me. I grew up with you guys. Grew up with your kids, too.
That's more like it.
Yeah, had a crush on your daughter and your daughter at one point in time, so that's good. You know that.
I don't know if it was good or not.
I could have been your son-in-law.
Wow.
That totally changes the way the day starts. Can you imagine that?
Can you imagine?
So, how did you get into racing in Miami? Because y'all are from Florida. And then how did you get to Alabama?
I was a big race fan, even though I was a little guy in school. My senior year of high school, they started an amateur division at Hialeah Speedway. And the rules of the amateur division were you had to have a seat belt and a crash helmet, and you had to take your headlights and your taillights out and your muffler off. That was easy enough. I had gotten a 38 Chevy Coupe from a classmate of mine at school. I put a seat belt in it. I went and got me a crash helmet, painted a number on the door with shoe polish, went out there and ran the first race. And so they had about 30 cars in that first race. And I ran 7. Well, that meant there was 23 of them behind me. So I justified my whole deal right there. Boy, you know, I didn't win, but boy, a lot of them were behind me. Third week, there were about 50 cars there, and I won the race. And I mean, it was like I just won Indy and Daytona both, as far as I was concerned. I was on my way. So that led to a little deal where my mom said, I gave you permission for 1 week. And I said something like, no, Mom, you gave me permission for 100 years.
What grade are you in? How many years?
2 years.
2 years. Okay, so you're 2 years. So you're 17.
When he was a senior, I was in the 10th grade.
Okay.
I started in 58.
58.
Yeah. I didn't race.
Yeah.
I didn't go to races. My older brother Eddie, he started. He was a mechanic for the #1 car in South Florida for years. Bobby started, and this guy, I used to roller skate every Wednesday and Saturday night at the Rustic Roller Rink. And I had a lot of good friends. That's what we did.
So you were a roller skating
That's
king.
it.
While he was the race king, you were the roller skating
I was.
king. I got you.
I was.
All right.
But anyway, this guy down the road from my mom's house where I lived bought a car, an amateur car, they called it at the time. 44 all cut up and had a flathead Ford and all that. Well, he stopped me one day and he says, I want you to go to the race with me Saturday night. I don't go to races, man. I go roller skating. No, he says, he says, I'll pay your way in and all that. So I went. Well, we towed this thing with a tow bar at the time. We didn't have no trailers, nothing.
Just flat towing.
So we go to Hialeah Speedway, and for people who don't know Hialeah, it's a swamp, and we're parked in the back 40, okay? Well, he goes out to practice the first time, and there's like 40 cars out there, 35 cars, whatever it is. So I'm standing there by the guardrail with the telephone guardrail and watch him run. When he comes in, he said, well, how did I do? I said, I could drive the thing better than that. And so he says, okay, you drive it next practice. I said, I don't want to drive it. He said, yeah, you drive it next practice. So I said, so I drove it. And he says, yeah, you did better than me. He said, you race it. I said, man, I don't want to race this thing. So anyway, he taught me I did. I started like 32nd or 33rd, and I finished 12th. And so we hooked this thing up, the tow bar, and we're going home. Well, my dad's run his business out of our backyard. Had a big driveway went around this big monstrous house. This guy drives around the back with his car, and he gets out and he starts unhooking the tow bar. Whoa, 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 buddy, you can't do that. My father will have it. He had already got him mad as hell. I said, you can't leave that thing easy. I'm gonna give it to you. You race it. Stuff, you know, my mom, she's having a hissy fit.
Because now she's got 2 of you guys.
Yeah,
now there's 2 of you.
Yeah, 2 of us driving. And one of them working on him.
Yeah.
He says, all my boys are gonna go to hell.
Yeah,
So,
we know that.
Anyway, I went that next Saturday night and ran Hialeah. Well, he had an amateur car and he was winning.
Yeah.
And so they put a special race on at Medley, which they didn't run very often then, on Sunday. He wins the heat, he wins the semi, and it comes time for a consi. Well, he's not able to run, but I am. So they talk him into let me drive his car. So I said, good. I said, hell, he won, I could win. Wrong. Well, Medley had a railroad iron guardrail, okay? When you hit it, honey, you didn't hurt the guardrail. Well, they took me to the hospital. I hit my head on the roll cage, and it destroyed his race car. I'm not talking about wrecked it. It destroyed it. So I go to the hospital. I come back, and I come to the shop, and he's in the back. He's cutting it up with a torch. Well, I walk back there, and he did say, I give this to him, "Were you all right?" He said, "Are you all right?" I said, "Yeah." Well, then he commenced to give me down the road. "You don't never be no race car driver. You won't do." I said, "I'll show you, buddy."
Yeah.
So that's how I got started. That is the gospel truth. I don't care what he tells you, anybody else tells you. That's how I got started.
How'd you get to Alabama? Because that's where.
See,
let me just say, that's where everybody knows you. Everybody knows you as the Alabama gang.
Well, see, the first year, Kyle, what people don't really realize, the people that we've told off and on. See, I was driving an amateur car. He had went up to a modified.
Yeah.
A boy named Kenny Andrews had a car. He lived in Homestead. It was a friend of ours, and Gil Hearn drove it.
Yeah.
Well, they had been up to Alabama and Georgia racing and came back and told him about, man, how good racing was up there. He could race every night of the week about. We had a race.
Tracks.
We had
Paved tracks.
Yeah, we had a race at West Palm Beach, and we didn't have a car, tow car. We didn't have nothing. So we borrowed a '57 Chevrolet station wagon from a guy named Lou White, a friend of ours, and we took off from West Palm Beach. Now we're going to Alabama, Bobby and I. He said my mom said to take me, but that ain't true.
If you're gonna go, take him with you.
But, well, for people that don't know, going up to Florida, the interstate wasn't there at the time. We went up 27, Alton 27. Well, it was still dark, and all of a sudden we look behind, there's sparks everywhere. I'm talking about looked like 4th of July. The axle housing broke on the right rear of that car. So we stopped and we jacked the car up with the torsion bar. We don't have no tire and wheel.
Yeah.
It's gone. Well, we turn around and we're looking, and can't find it. We went over a little railroad track, and I said, "Bobby, I bet it broke off at that railroad track." So we turned back around and went back, and I found the hole in the fence. We went and got it, put it up on the back of the car, went to a little garage up the road at Perry, Florida. I welded it all back on. We go to Montgomery. Now, people find it hard to believe, but I think I had $26 to my name, and I think he probably had about twice that. And we get to 231 bypass in Montgomery, and there's a house, and a man sitting on the house in a rocking chair. And so we stop in the front, and I get out and I walk up to the edge of the porch, and I ask the man, did he know where Montgomery Speedway was? We'd heard there was a speedway there. No, I don't know where that's at. He said, but there's a guy right up the road who's got a jalopy like you got. That's what he called Bobby's race car, jalopy.
Jalopy.
Kyle, and this is the gospel. The woman came out of the house, older woman, and said something to her husband about we're ready to eat. And he said, these young guys here are looking for a racetrack. He said, well, tell them come on in and have something to eat.
No way.
I swear, I've never heard anything like that in Miami, Florida. And that was our trip to Alabama.
So what was your first race like in Alabama?
Oh my God, I'll let him tell you.
I was feeling pretty good. I had run the night before at Dixie Speedway, a quarter mile in Birmingham, and run 5th in the first heat, 5th in the semi, and 5th in the feature. Told him, I said, I'll go up to the pay window and give her a couple of bucks, and we'll get a hamburger, and we'll sleep in the truck on the way to Montgomery.
Yeah.
I go to the pay window, they gave me $135. I said, Donnie, we have died and gone to heaven. Look at all this
That's
money.
the gospel. That's the gospel. His first feature win in a modified was my very first modified race night.
No way.
Yeah.
And then see the next night, we went to Atlanta Peach Bowl. You know, Peach Bowl was about the size of the top of that glass right there.
Yeah.
And me and this great big high-powered thing, and of course I probably looked like I was on dirt. I ran pretty good. I ran 5th, so I thought I did all right.
So you go to Alabama, you run for a week or so, and you make pretty dang good money. Is that when you, in your mind, you were like, man, we got to move to Alabama? Because I don't understand. I mean, I guess what I'm asking is, so you moved to Alabama, eventually you moved to Alabama, and y'all become the Alabama gang. Y'all are known as, nobody even knows you're from Florida. Y'all are the Alabama gang. Yeah. How did you two guys Neil,
that was
Red, everybody. How did
that
you?
was early in the racing season. You know, in June, July, June coming up before
Yeah.
4th of July. So I went home for a week. You know, I had given you your ring, engagement ring, before I left.
Yeah.
So I went back, checked, find out that my ring was still doing okay. See, I had worked for Red before I drove professionally myself. I
Okay.
had driven amateur, but no professional yet. But I had built him a set of carburetors, and he won the first 19 feature races he went to.
No way.
With my carburetors.
Yeah.
And
So he liked you.
yeah. So anyway, I told him, I said, Red, boy, things are so neat in Alabama. The tracks are beautiful, the country's beautiful, people are friendly, and the persons are good.
To give you an example, in 1962, we ran 106 races, the three of us. And between the three of us, we won 96 of them.
No way. No way.
And so see, we didn't realize the Alabama gang because we didn't think of it like that. But
I would have thought that way if
I
you
mean,
come in and took all the money like that.
see,
I would have thought
that's
the
what
Alabama gang comes to
later
town
on,
and
I
hauls it
said,
off.
you know, we were a pretty damn good gang. We took all their money.
As far as racing my brother, I know that I've been raising him for the past 10 years, and he's a real tough competitor. I know he likes to beat me, and of course I like to beat him. I think we look out for each other an awful lot. When we're on the racetrack, we're most of all competitors, and of course, you know, I pull for him whenever it can't be me, but naturally I want to beat him.
So it looks like a 1-2 finish for the Allison brothers.
That gets me to my next jumping off point, because everybody knows you guys as NASCAR winners, as NASCAR guys. But in the 60s, Mario came, and AJ and Rutherford, and there were a number of guys that came from open wheel here. But Cale, Leroy, and then you went in 70 to Indianapolis to run the Indy 500. In your first attempt, you finished 4th, which is a record that stood until 92, from 1970 to 90. You were the rookie year, best finish. I mean, you were the guy. Well, how did you end up at Indy?
I was the last rookie until Nigel Mansell to finish the 500 miles.
That's crazy.
In the lead lap.
That's crazy. But how did you get from, did you get from NASCAR and running NASCAR races and make that transition to Indy? Because we just don't see that. We don't see it today, and we just didn't see it.
Well, see, I used to see AJ quite a bit at NASCAR races that he ran. And I used to say to him every day, when are you going to let me drive an Indy car? And his famous thing to me was, you can't drive an Indy car, you're a taxi driver. Well, this went on and on and on. At Daytona 500, he was driving for the Woods Brothers, okay? And I said to him, I said, AJ, why don't you let me drive one of your Indy cars? And he said, you really want to drive one, don't you? I said, yes, I do. I wouldn't say that if I didn't. He said, okay, I'll call you. Well, I'd heard that plenty of times before, I'll call you, right? But he did. And he said, come to Houston. So I get on the airplane and I fly out to Houston, and we're in there talking, and so we go back in the warehouse, and there's all these tubs and these crates up on this wall. And he pointed at this car and he said, that's the car you're going to drive. He said, you get with Tony, which is his daddy. He never called him daddy, called him Tony. He said, you get with Tony and y'all are going to put that together. So I start talking to Tony, and he's not happy at all about this.
Yeah.
Okay, I don't know whether he wasn't happy about me driving or running or what, or what, putting the car or what. But anyway, we get the car down, and it's not a Coyote, AJ Foyt car. It's a Dan Gurney Eagle, a 1968 Dan Gurney Eagle. Well, we put the thing all together, and so we go to Indy. First of all, we went on a test up there, and AJ said, you want to take a ride? I said, yes. Well, Clarence Cagle come over. He said, if I ran over 110 miles an hour, I wouldn't qualify for the race. He wouldn't let me. So his favorite thing to me was always fold the blanket up and take a ride. The Goodyear blanket on the nose, you know, because he was bigger than me. So I folded it all up, and I put it in there, and I pride myself because I don't stall the damn thing leaving pits. Everybody saw me. You know, they only got
I know.
They've only got a 2-speed.
Yeah.
So anyway, I don't stall it. Well, I go out, and I'm going around there slow, and I mash the gas a little bit, and this thing don't run. I thought they said these things ran. And all of a sudden, the boost came in that thing, and when it did, my knee hit my chin coming off the gas pedal. So that was my first experience.
Yeah.
Ever driving an Indy car.
Yeah.
Okay?
So you put it together and went to Indy and got in it.
I mean, this is the way it happened.
Yeah.
So I go up there for the race, and I'm going to take my rookie test. Well, USAC's got us in a room telling us what we got to do this, got to do this. You can run it in 4 stages. And do this. And AJ's telling me, do not run in those ripples in the apron going into turn 1. You didn't have an apron like they got now. It only had a little short one. He said, do not go in them aprons. You'll spin out. Well, USAC saying you better be in those ripples. So I go out there and I go in ripples and I spin out. Well, Lord God, I never got cussed at so much in my life. I told you, he gets up there and he gets in a fight with USAC. Well, believe it or not, I take my last 3 stages of my rookie test without ever coming in, all at one time. And then I crashed. You know, I wanted the wings on the front of my car, and he put them on there, and I crashed going into 3. I spun 360 degrees and hit the wall straight ahead. Well, I bit my tongue on my lip, and when I come out of the infield care center, AJ was sitting there on a golf cart, and he says, "You okay?" I said, "Yes, I bit my tongue." He said, "How did you do that?" I said, "Just before I hit the ball." I said, "Oh." And he said, "I knew you was going to crash." I said, "Well, why didn't you tell me then?" So anyway, then after that, everything was smooth. The last 15 laps of the race, Mario Andretti and Bobby Allison and myself, we passed each other about 5 times. And I finally got ahead of them, was able to stay ahead of them. And I was paid probably the best compliment you could be ever paid after that race. A.J. Watson, which was Bobby Hunter's crew chief at the time, came to our garage. And boy, he was mad, wasn't letting people in, but he let him in. He said, "Sorry you had trouble, Floyd." He said, "I come to say something to Allison." And he walked over to me and he said, "I want to shake your hand. You're the only stock car driver I've ever seen that could drive one of these things."
Yeah.
And I thought that was a pretty good compliment.
Huge compliment.
Coming from him. Yes, it
Yeah.
was. See, and I'm fortunate because I ran 4th the first year and 6th the second.
Yeah. He set the bar pretty high.
Yeah.
Yeah, because he goes up there and runs 4th, and then he comes back and he runs 6th. Then you end up there with a Penske. You went in 70, what'd you go, 73, 74. You were kicking butt and taking names on the Cup Series.
Allison has outdriven Pearson, but the race isn't over. Both drivers are standing on the throttle.
I mean, seriously. And I mean, it's like, that's like Jimmy Johnson going over and saying, "Yeah, I'm just going to go over here and run this race." What was the impetus to go there?
That's a really crazy story, too. So I'm out at Riverside for a Trans Am race. And I walk through the garage area, and this guy is there with, got 5 shadow cars there. "I'd like to take a lap." I said, "Oh, that'd be neat." He said, "Well, go get your hat." And I go out and I run 8 laps. I'm thinking, well, you know, I did kind of okay. And I come in and say, "Man, we got to get you signed up for your third fastest qualifier." And I said, "Oh boy, that's not bad. It's pretty good." Well, with that, Jackie Oliver comes walking through there, and he's cussing and carrying on and fires me. Well, I find out he's part owner of the team. And I had just beat him and his car by 7 miles an hour at Riverside.
That's a way to get fired.
Yeah. So Roger Penske says, "Boy, you went fast in that thing." I said, "Well, it's kind of fun." He says, "I need to get you in an Indy car. I don't want to be in one." "Oh, yeah. I said, "We're going to test at Ontario here in a couple of days." He says, "I'll pay you to come run that test." I said, "Well, how much would you pay?" And he said, "I'll give you $10,000 to come run that car."
No way.
I said, "What time do you want me?"
Let's start walking now. I'm walking that way right now.
Sir. So I flew back out. They had the Indy cars in Ontario. Mark was still alive. Mark stayed by himself at anything, the racetrack or a test or anything. Anyway, I go out there, and a little limey talking guy comes up to me and says, "You go out in this car right here." So you can't go fast. This car's going to kill you. I'm going to be calling your wife in just a couple minutes, telling her you just killed yourself. And, "Okay, go ahead and go out." So I go out and I ride around, you know, I play with the steering a little bit and I play with the gas pedal, but, you know, go down toward the corner and see how it feels to lean into it and stuff like that. I come in, he's this big deal, the big NASCAR driver goes 135 miles an hour in the Indy car. So is that all you can do? I said, you told me, spent 15 minutes telling me to go slow, so I went slow. So I'll go back out now if I can go past. Oh, we can't let you out now, we're busy. I said, do I go home? No, we'll let you run the section. And it's 9 o'clock in the morning. Get in the car and I go. I said, how fast can I get? I said, well, just be careful. Okay. And so I come in and stop, and this little limey talking guy crawls across the nose piece of this car. I mean, those things are holy grail.
You don't touch them.
Crawls across that nose piece and grabs me by my shirt collar. You lying SOB, I hate a liar, you SOB. And just carrying on. And I grabbed his hands and I stood up in the seat. And I said, I didn't lie to you about anything. What are you talking about? He said, Mark Donahue and Peter Resnick are the two best in the world in these cars, and their best lap has been 192. And you go 191 and a half, you liar, you. I said, this morning's the first time I ever sat in one of these things, and I just earned my pay and I just left. Pushed it backwards and changed my clothes, got my airplane, went home.
So that's how your IndyCar career started.
It wasn't good.
Yeah, it wasn't good.
It wasn't good.
Wasn't good. We're going to switch subjects here, and I'm going to go to 81 and the end of your career at Charlotte. And that was a bad wreck.
Donnie Allison hit the wall in turn 4, and before he could get his car off the track, he was hit by a hard-charging Dick Brooks. Donnie Allison was unconscious as workers removed him from his demolished car, and first hospital reports listed Donnie in guarded condition.
Kyle, it's weird because I really don't know. That day, I remember now going in that morning. I had Ronald and Donald, my twin sons, was on pit road with me, and the guard was trying, the NASCAR pit was trying, I know they were with me, they were fine. That's really the last thing I remember that day. But anyway, I don't really know. I do remember you, Robin Pemberton, and stopping by in Birmingham and seeing me. I don't remember anything for a good while about that. And I asked the doctor about it. I asked the neurosurgeon about it. He said, well, that's the brain's way of healing, of keeping you from finding out.
You know, you were 81, then your accident in 88.
We got a spin back on the backstretch. The caution flag will wave.
But I want to say this to you, and I've probably never said this, but Clifford's accident in a car at Michigan, and then Davey a year later.
Davey Allison was in very critical condition late Monday night after the helicopter he was piloting crashed at Talladega Motor Speedway. The helicopter Allison has owned for just a few weeks crashed on the infield of the superspeedway.
In a short 4 or 5 year period, a lot of things happened to the Allison family. We put your accident in 81, it's a 10-year period, it feels like that. But the sport had always been good to you guys. Personally, when Adam's accident happened, I followed your lead. Because I remembered what you were like with Clifford when that accident happened. I remembered what you and Judy did when Davey's accident. I mean, there was a roadmap for me. But how did you deal with that?
That was incredibly tough. Part of what helped me with that was I was not healed up mentally yet all the way. And so I could quit thinking about this deal here, go think about this deal over here. Kind of just escape the agony for the moment.
It's a special picture, and just a second.
You know, losing Adam helped me.
You don't know this, but I had surgery when Adam got killed. I was sitting in my chair at my den, and he calls on the phone. He said, "What exit do I get off to go to your house?" I said, "Where you been?" He said, "I've been to Petty's." And that's when they came in and told me they had been to your place, that they had talked in Nashville, that they felt like that's where they needed to go to.
Yeah, I will never forget seeing you there that day, because when I personally got the news, then instantly in my head is Davey and Clifford and you, because I grew up with them. I grew up with them. I mean, we played on the beach, we played in the pool, we raced against each other. I just grew up with them. And then I thought, in that moment, I was Bobby Allison. In that moment, I knew the hurt that you had experienced and the pain that you had experienced, and I could not. I felt so sorry for you and your family, and then for you to be there to hug you and to hold you. And that was an amazing moment for me, and you'll never know how much you meant to me because of that. So thank you very much.
Well, Kyle, we got through our trials and tribulations the same way you did.
Yeah.
By a very, very, very strong leader.
Yeah.
Yours was named Elizabeth, and ours was named Kitty.
Yes, she was.
And I promise you.
Remember, I remember your mom out by the pool all the time,
yes.
screaming at us to slow down and don't run, don't jump, don't do all this stuff. Yeah.
But I mean, this is, and he'll tell you the same thing. The way we were raised, we did a lot of things she didn't like, I understand, but she was a pretty good rock. And, I know when I got there, when Davey died, he and I stood down there in the driveway of the shop and put our arms around each other, and both of us cried. It was rough. It was hard. Davey was his kid, but he was just like my kid.
And I know I've never told you, but I admire you two guys and your family and what you've stood for, and what you've done on the racetrack and what you did off the racetrack.
Congratulations.
It's funny. I consider you friends and just part of our family, because that's what racing was during that period of time.
Well, I mean, that's what we feel too. Even your father and my brother had some pretty stiff rivalries. They got me involved a couple times.
Yeah, they got you involved.
But all said and done, Kyle, that was the difference. Racing in our day was families.
Yeah, family. Love you guys, man.
I love you too, man.
Thank you very much, Bobby. Love you, man. Thank you, guys.
Hey Motorsports fans, thanks for watching. Make sure you hit subscribe before you go for all the latest news and highlights across motorsports.